So we are going to start now, and today I can see your faces. So there are many familiar faces. Really nice to see that, and so we will start today's our class, and as I briefly mentioned last week, just to remind remind ourselves, the class will last around hour 15 minutes, and as I mentioned last week, people who love to have some questions, you can have written questions. Then we will collect those written questions, send to the administrators, and they will collect it. Then we will have a period, maybe in the third or fourth class, we'll have a question and answer time. So we will start the session as always we do. That is making sure that our intention to join the class is a positive, a constructive mind, which is very crucial to make our class helpful, useful, and meaningful to ourselves and to others. And here, when we talk about constructive or positive intention, I mean, according to our mental capacity or mental capability, basically we all have ability to hold many different levels of layers of positive minds. There's no doubt with that. Only that many of us lacking is we don't put that much attention or effort to hold or to express positive, constructive mind. And this kind of gathering is really very much to the habituate to hold positive and constructive minds at the beginning of the day, at the beginning of an event, whether the event is what's called the everyday activities or something special or unique. So therefore, I will encourage not just you, but also to myself to hold a positive, a constructive mind. That can be, the mind taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Buddha as one's own teacher or mentor. Dharma, his teachings as actual means, methods to be applied in our daily lives, to be experienced, to be actualized within ourselves, and to take refuge in Sangha, as see them as our spiritual friends, supporters, whom that we can talk, share, discuss the spiritual path that we are following, spiritual path that we are trying to, to actualize. and holding that mind, not just the occasionally, not just the when we have difficult times, but all the times, in the morning, during the day, briefly to remind ourselves, the end, in the evening before going to bed, just recalling the Buddha or Buddhas, Dharma, and the Sangha are my refuge. Until the full enlightenment, until the full fully awakened mind is experienced, is actualized within myself, in order to benefit all living creatures. So holding that kind of mind. And that really now, just later, we are going to say the refuge and the bodhicitta lines. And from those lines, first two lines really help us to hold that mind, the mind taking refuge. Really bring ourselves as an individual, as a living being, who strongly, very strongly yearn. I have a yearning to take refuge, in three jewels, in order to free from dukkha and origins of dukkha. So like that. And then, also people who are following the bodhisattva and the teachings, the Mahayana teachings, Vajrayana teachings, and then it is also helpful and useful, not just to hold the mind taking refuge, but also to hold the bodhicitta, the altruistic awakened mind which very strongly and clearly yearns for the well-beings of all living creatures, the living beings, and to fulfill that yearning, that longing, and then to have a strong, yearning to experience the fully awakened mind, oneself to experience fully awakened mind, in order to, serve, all living creatures, regardless of different connections that we have at this stage, at the present time, but be, right here and now, to hold that all living beings who would like to serve, like to work for the sake of all living beings, from their immediate needs, such as food, shelter, medicines, supports, advice, and also for their long-term needs. That is, be free from suffering and the origins of suffering. So holding that mind, the altruistic awakened mind, as a starting point to this to this class, that will be very, very useful and helpful. So while now we are going to read those 4 lines, refuge and the bodhicitta lines, really try to hold, even if it is very brief, doesn't matter, hold those 2 minds as a main reason main intention to participate in this class. Sanje cheda soji chonam ma chanjo pado dane janso je dage chenso jibe chonama je dola penje sanje toba jo sanje cheda soji chonam ma chanjo pado dane janso je dage chenso jibe chonama je dola penje sanje toba jo sanje cheda soji chonama la chanjo pado dane janso je dage jinso jibe chonama je dola penje sanje dobara cho. Oh yeah. So now we'll do a short silent meditation. Although the meditation is, just 5 minutes, it won't make that much huge difference, but it is part of our training. It is part of training ourselves in our everyday lives. Because having a calm, clear mind is crucial to enhance, to cultivate, to nurture some of these very, very useful, helpful minds, such as love, compassion, altruism, wisdom realizing emptiness, and so forth. These useful realizations or mental states to really relatively easily to cultivate, to nurture within ourselves our basic states of mind. Now, general states of mind should be should have these two qualities: stillness and clarity. Stillness, in the sense our mind has the ability really to stay to the to stay with a one particular event or one particular an object or to the present, whatever term that we use. In other words, our mind has a strength not to be distracted easily by the external events or the internal mental activities. And having that kind of quality of stillness is extremely helpful. And that kind of quality need to nurture again. And nurtured through meditation, meditation. And also the other quality, that is stillness. Clarity. Clarity in the sense when our mind is on an object, on a particular event, such as love, compassion, altruism, or breathing, and our mind not just with that particular event or particular object, but the mind is fully alert, fully aware of the event or the object. And that is the meaning of clarity, clarity. So that to have that kind of mental quality, we should, in a regular basis, we should do meditation. So to familiarize that kind of culture, that kind of habit, we will do a short 5 minute silent meditation. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Now we will start the actual class. And as we all know, we last Sunday, we started reading this very beautiful prayer, commonly called the King of Prayer. And so we will last week, I just gave the general structure of the prayer and a little bit of background of the prayer itself. And so today we will start from the actual prayer. And as I briefly mentioned last week, the first 12 verses are the verses which help us, to technically call preliminary practice. And that is very, I think most of you know, not only you know, I'm sure most of you, one way or another, to do this 7-limb preliminary, practice every day, every day, I think. I'm sure many of you have some form of daily practice, and most of the Tibetan Buddhist daily practices have, some are quite elaborated form of this 7-limb prayer, or some are in a very short, just in a one verse, but many they have. And that is the first 12 verses. First 12 verses really explains these 7 different practices. And these 7 different practices are called, sometimes they are called in Tibetan, Sakjang Ginne Duba. Sakjang Ginne Duba. Sak, literally it means accumulate or create, create virtues, wholesome, or quite often translated saying, the merits, sak, that means, create or accumulate, the virtues or the wholesomes. Jangwa, that means, the purify the negativities. So here the negativities are very much mainly related to our mental, those unhealthy mental states. When we say create or accumulate the virtues, wholesomes, or the merits, again, very much referring to those wholesome mental states, those positive mental states, such as love, compassion, altruism, the ethics, patience, and so on and so forth. So then, Sakjamki, ne duba, ne, literally it means, the important points, ne, points. Duba, condense, or in a summary, in a summary form of the essence of the, creating the virtues and purifying the negativities. And these 7, practices that help us to do that. And as you know, the 7 practices are offering prostrations and making offerings, the purifying the negativities, rejoicing or appreciating the virtues, wholesomes, and then requesting to the mentors or teachers teach the Dharma, and then the requesting those great teachers to live a long time with us, and then the dedications. So those are the 7 practices, which the first, which is the offering prostrations, and the third, which is the purifying the negativities. These two, if we put into groups, these 7, these two belongs to the, or these two practices help us to purify the negativities, purify all those unhealthy, unwholesome, the mental states and the behaviors and their propensities, prostration, and the third, which is purifying the negativities. Then the second, which is making offerings, and fourth, which is the rejoicing the virtues, and fifth, which is requesting the Dharma teachings, and the sixth, which is requesting to teachers to stay with us for a long time. These are belongs to the first one, which is creating or accumulating the virtues or the wholesomes or the merits. And the last, which is the dedication, belongs to the both, what those virtues, those activities, and their, the consequences or the results are dedicated. So that is what here, the 7 preliminary for the purifying the mind in the text that we have, put that heading at the beginning of that. So that is, and the last week, last Sunday, I briefly mentioned, when we do when we do this practice, 7 preliminary for the purifying the mind and creating the virtues, then it is good, people who would like to do, and people who familiar with that, it is good to imagine or visualize you are doing this very useful practice in front of all the Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and all those great beings, that you have direct connections, or that we have a connection indirectly. All those great beings, and also this, because of the some of the later our reading that we will come across, it will be quite useful. Entire space is covered, or is covered with these great realized beings, Buddhas, those fully awakened beings, and those bodhisattvas and hearers, solitude realizers. Although we don't have in a particular image how they look like, it is quite difficult. But mentally, strongly imagine that you are in front of all these great realized beings, which covered the entire space. That like you are, interacting with those great beings. Your interaction is these 7 limb prayers. And that is really something useful. to hold that kind of the atmosphere, to create that kind of atmosphere. Then now the first verse. Now the first and the first to the end of the verse 4. These first 4 verses out of the 7 practices, which is the first practice, which is prostration. Verse 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, first, let me explain briefly, the purpose of offering prostrations. The purpose of offering prostration is, first of all, really to you to understand and appreciate the qualities of those great beings. Those great beings, they love, compassion, altruism, fully awakened mind, and the activities to help all living creatures without any discriminations, without any exceptions, without any sort of expecting anything in return. Really feeling of understanding their qualities of their realizations, and the qualities of what they have purified. They have purified all the negativities, all the afflictions, and their propensities, and they have all these amazing mental states, realizations, and through those 2 qualities, they interact with the living beings that include oneself. So that is really something important mental states to have, to really to offer the prostrations, because this offering prostration is part of our understanding of their great qualities, then paying respects. Because of their great qualities, then paying respects. Paying respects is also part of really dealing with one of our very unhealthy mental states. That is, negative pride or the arrogant mind. The arrogant mind or negative pride is, although we may think, we may feel, oh, I'm not an arrogant person, I'm not, I don't hold that kind of negative pride. I'm very humble, very simple, very, we may think that, we may feel that, and in certain extents, we are, we are. But in the deep down, if we really, what you call, analyze, investigate, observe our deep down mental states and our interaction with the other living beings, this unhealthy mental state is still there within ourselves, and that is the purpose of making prostration. Is purpose of making prostration is 2 things. First of all, realizing the great qualities of those great beings, and that recognition sincerely with the body, speech, and mind, the paying respect, and then by doing that is really dealing with this unhealthy mental state. Now, that is the negative pride or arrogant mind. So that is something which we should, hold, remember that when we do the prostration. And then we are going to read first, the what you call a verse in Tibetan. I will just read Tibetan because I receive oral what you call the transmission, this prayer from several different great teachers, and so I will read the Tibetan, the line by line, and I will give some comment on some of those words that we don't understand. So in Tibetan, the first verse, Chinyi Sukta Choju Jigdena, Tusum Shepa Mi Singi Kun. Chinyi, in Tibetan, in English, it is in the, they put in the third line. I think that's how they translate it, saying, to every single one of you. So that is what in Tibetan, Chinyi. But I don't know, in English, to every single one of you, that word really says or explains all enlightened beings. Here, when we say to every single one of you in Tibetan, which comes in the first line as a first word, Chinyi Sutta, that is reason all those enlightened beings and bodhisattvas, Chinyi Sutta. Then the Chokju Jitena, Chokju, that is in the second line in English. It says in all directions of the universe. Chokju. In the Buddhist, and also it comes from ancient Indian traditions. When they talk about, say, here universe, all directions, or in the ancient Indian culture, they say 10 directions. Chokju in Tibetan, 10 directions. 10 directions refers to, 4 main directions, 4 what you call the sub-directions, or this, cardinal directions, and then top and the bottom. That is the 10 directions. Chokju, Jigden, that is universe. Here it is in English. It is in the second line. Chokju Jigdena. Then Tusum. Now I'm reading the second line of Tibetan. Tusum Shepa. Tusum. That literally means that is in English in the second line. Tusum literally means 3 times. 3 times. That means present, past, present, and the future. That is in the Tusum. So mi singe, and that is what here in English it is in the first line. It says the lines of the human race. That is in English in the first line, saying the lines of the human race. So what does that mean? Lines of the of course lines refers to that animal, one of the most powerful animal in the animal kingdom, and that's why quite often this analogy is used, because in Tibet, I don't think we have lines, although we have this called snow line. I'm not sure whether that's Tibetan creature or it comes from China. I don't know. So that animal, and so we call lines, like one of the most powerful animal in the animal kingdom. When it, that animal, when it goes around in the jungles, the rest of the animals really can't confront the lines, and that is what here the analogy is. The meaning is this: all the Buddhas, all those fully awakened beings, one of their qualities, one of the group of their qualities, their group of qualities in Tibetan is called Minjikbashi. Four fearless quality, four fearless qualities. That is, one of the fully awakened beings' qualities. What are those four fearless? That's why this lines and comes here, because the lion is fearless with the other animals. Like that, the fully realized beings, fully awakened beings in a human form, they are fearless to proclaim these four things. What are those four things? The four things are this. They don't have any fear to proclaim, to say to the public or to say to anybody, I have, realized all the realizations, or I'm fully awakened being, fully awakened being. They don't have any fear to express that to the other human beings. There's no fear. Why there's no fear? That is the fact for those enlightened beings. Enlightened beings are fully awakened beings, so they don't have any fear to proclaim that to the other human beings. And that's the first one. And the second fearless is they have no fear. They have no fear to proclaim, all the defilements, or all the afflictions, and their propensities are completely purified, completely eradicated from their mental continuum. So to proclaim that to the others, to the other human beings, those fully awakened human beings don't have any fear. Any fear. That's what here fearless. And third fearless is, when they teach Dharma, when they teach the Dharma to the living beings, to the sentient beings, they have no fears to teach, Dharma from the basic to the complete, to the simple to the most subtle detail, to explain. They don't have any fear to teach Dharma. And the fourth fearless is, to show to the people, like the renunciation, that is determination to be free from cyclic existence, the strong, yearning, the yearning, to be free from the samsara, and that is renunciation, bodhicitta, and fully, what you call the realizing emptiness. They to show that these paths to the followers, they don't have any fears. So that is this here, why this, in English it says the lines of the human race. Why the line is expressed. Line has or have no fears with the other animals in the animal kingdom. Similar to that, the fully awakened beings, Buddhas in a human form, they don't have any fear to proclaim these four things, The first one is, they have fully awakened mind. Second one is they have eliminated or purified all the negativities or all the afflictions and their propensities. And the third one is they have no fear to teach the Dharma, simple to the most complicated, sophisticated details. And the fourth one is to show the path. They have no fear to show the path, such as, here the just simple example, renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom realizing emptiness. So this is why here the lines of the human race, this term line is explained. So that is what here, the Dagi Malu Teda Tamjela. So now in the third line, Daki, and this is important one. Here Daki in Tibetan, and in English it says I bow in homage. So I, His Holiness the Dalai Lama really says very often. For example, in those 4 lines when we say the refuge and the bodhicitta, in the refuge, I take refuge in 3 jewels. When you say the word I, really to remember that you, ourselves, as taking the refuge, not somebody is taking refuge, myself taking refuge. And in this case, I, bow in homage. And in the last line, devotional fills my body, speech, and mind. This is what in English, Lu Tang Ngagi Tangwe Chagyo. So this is what here, Lu Tang, Lu means body, Ngak means the speech, Yi means the mind, Chak is the prostration or bowing, and so I pay homage with my body, speech, and mind. So here, this first verse is really very much, capturing the essence of out of the 7 practices. First practice, which is the offering prostrations. So with the body, and this one, body, speech, and mind. Bodily, bowing, culturally, in the ancient Indian culture, bowing. There are sort of several different ways of bodily to pay respects in tradition, in the Buddhist tradition or the ancient Indian traditions. The first one is, offering prostration, what in Tibetan we call Yangla Ngai Chak. Yangla Ngai Chak, that means, prostration with your 5 points of your body. That is 5 points, your forehead, your 2 hands, your 2 knees. Your forehead, your 2 hands, your 2 knees are touched on the ground. And that is one way of making prostrations. So to do that, before you, do that, first fold your hands, fold your palms together, to put 2 thumbs inside, not like flat, inside your palm, then fold it. This is what it is called jewel, jewel, what you call the, posture, jewel, like a jewel, shape of jewel. Then of course there are many different shapes in the jewels, but this is what it said. And then, touch on your, what you call the top of your head, Then second, touch on your forehead. then touch just below your neck, and then touch your heart. So touching that, folded your palm, touching these 4 places, the what you call the top of your head and your forehead, and then your neck. This, what you call the here touching at your heart, your head, will with that kind of strong feeling of devotion or strong feeling of recognition of their great qualities, and your that paying respect with that kind of mental state, touching on your head with this palm will keep to in the future, to when you attain fully awake, full enlightenment, then you have this what is called Ushanisha. That funny stage, funny kind of head, Ushanisha. And touching here at forehead is your body, and touching your just under your throat, that is your speech, and touching your heart, that's your what you call the heart. And touching those 4 places will make the imprints, create the imprints in the future. You have pure body, speech, and mind. We also have the Ushanisha. So that is how and then when you stand, if you do the prostration with standing, then put your 2 feet close, not very widely open, close, put next to each other. Then, unless you have some physical problem, otherwise stand straight, then really do this and bow down, touch your 5 points of your body and to the floor, or then stand up and do this 3 times. Or you can do the full, what we call in English called full prostrations. That is entire your body is touch on floor or wherever you are. And then if you do that, then you should stretch your both hands as far as you can, and then join before you stand up, join there, palm, while you are down stretching on the floor, then stand up. So do the same, touching head, forehead, your throat and heart, and then slowly, gently, do the full length prostration 3 times or whatever. And then, another way of doing prostration is simply, touching your forehead, touching the what you call the statue or the stupas or those great teachers, and they at their feet. That's also another form of making prostrations. And that is, for example, in the Theravadan tradition, have a slightly different. They don't stand fully, while they are kneel, then they touch forehead, their hands, like that. It is slightly different culture. The purpose or the meaning is the same, and that is what here, physically how that is done. And verbally, which will also come later on, verbally you can say some verses. For example, there are 3 mantras, which comes from Manjushri Sutras. Namo, Namo, Manju Shri, Namo Su Shri, Namo Uttama Shri Swa. I will send you this through the administrators next time. So though there are these three mantras, Namo Majushri, Namo Sushri, Namo Udamashri Soha. So say that. Or, say other prayers that you feel very inspiring, or like it, if you do people who do who are familiar with the 35 Buddha, which Jetsun Drakpa strongly recommends, and he himself did, many prostrations while he was in the retreat and also in the meditation. His two main activities during the post-meditation session, is making prostrations and making mandala offerings in the place which is called Olka, south of the Lhasa. So he did prostrations, with the saying the 35 Buddha's name, So that's a speech, and of course, mentally to hold, all the good qualities of those great beings that you are making prostrations, and that is here the first verse. Which is, offering prostrations with the body, speech, and mind. Now, then the second verse, which is, then next three verses, the second verse is body, making prostration with the body. Third verse is making prostration with the mind. And fourth verse is making prostrations with the speech, So we don't need to go that much detail. I already explained the purpose of the making prostrations. Now I will say in Tibetan. Sangbochebe melam top taki, jawa tamje yigi musumtu, shingi dunyi rirab dubayi. So this is, saying the Sangbochebe through the power of this prayer. That's what saying, the Toptaki Sangbochebe. That aspiring of good actions or good conduct. So this, this my prayers which really, enhances these, bodhisattva's deeds, Samantabhadra's deeds, bodhisattva's deeds. The power of this prayer, and then, as I mentioned earlier, to have the view, to perceive that all great beings, all enlightened beings in front of me, which is in the second line. All the victorious ones appear. That's what. Vivid here before my mind. So, which I already mentioned at the beginning. So really imagine that all, and the next third line, which is here, it says, and I multiply my body as many times as atoms in the universe. So it is and actually, prostration is making this present body, our present body, right? Just one body. But you can imagine, as here explained, your body, number of your body is as a number, atoms as in the universe. Your body manifests in sort of imagining that. And then, you sort of make prostrations to each and every those, what you call the enlightened beings that you have visualized, and that is very, very useful. For example, that according to the teachings of the Buddha, there were countless past lives that we have. This life is not this only life we had. We had many, many, many countless lives in the past. And if we don't work, if we don't depart to free from this samsaric life, we may have many, many, many this kind of life in the future. So here, this third line, when it says, and I multiply my body as many times as atoms in the universe, it is just really something to imagine in that, and then say that, make the prostrations. So each one bowing in prostration to all Buddhas. So all these countless bodies, your body that you have imagined, making prostrations to all the Buddhas in the space, which filled in all the space. Okay, I will come, I prepared this to explain a little bit about what the meaning of all victorious. What is that meaning of victorious? But I will come this maybe in this later. There's a particular meaning, victorious, victorious ones. That I will explain this. This word will come across very often. So today I want to finish this prostration verses there. So now the verse 3, which is here they marked as an offering, but it is part of making prostrations. So making part of the making prostrations. Okay. Now then this verse, the verse 3, first I will say in Tibetan, Dujik Tingna Duni Sanje Nam, Sanje Seji Una Shubata, Etarachuji Ingna Malupa, Tamje Jawa Tagi Kangla No. So this, the first line, Dujik Tingna Duni Sanje Nam, this is really very, here in English it says, in every atom, besides as many Buddhas as there are atoms. So in other words, the smallest atoms of the building blocks of the atoms, or the matters, in that small space of the, in that small space, and visualizing, imagine, and this numberless, as many atoms as universe, Buddha, numberless Buddhas, or Buddhas, as a same number as the atoms in the universe. And these Buddhas are surrounded by these, followers of the bodhisattvas and other followers, and residing or staying at this small atoms, at this small, small on the space of the smallest atoms. In that space, this huge numbers of the Buddhas and the bodhisattvas are residing in that space. So there is one, when in the bodhisattvas training, particularly I think in the eighth stage of the bodhisattvas training, after the there are 10 stages or 10 bhumis. I think it's the 8th bhumi, 8th stage in the training. And there's one particular training, mental training, to have that kind of ability to say this, to saying that in this, the smallest ability to see, ability to see, to experience, and that the small in the space of smallest atoms, entire universe can be seen in that smallest space of the smallest atom. The atom that space, does not go, does not get bigger, or the universe does not get smaller, but still have the ability to see that, that kind of training, mental training. It is part of the cultivation of concentration, to develop the development of concentration, to really, have a powerful concentration. So and this is what that part of here is talking about. Every atom presides as many Buddhas as there are atoms, and around them all the bodhisattvas has. So not just the Buddhas, as many atoms as the universe in that small place, but all those Buddhas are also, surrounded or, with those bodhisattvas. And then the third line. So in the third line, there's in Tibetan, Theta Chugi Ingnam. So this is what is mentioned in the last line. Complete, in English, it is in the last line. It says completely entire space of a reality. That's reality. That's what in Tibetan, Chugi Ing. Chugi Ing also refers to emptiness. Emptiness, Chuing, Dhammadadu in Sanskrit, Dhammadadu, which is in Tibetan Chuing, or emptiness. In here, I think that the line in the last line where there's a word of saying entire space of reality. So this is what really talking about, your mentally that, you are seeing the Buddhas and the bodhisattvas with their qualities, in that quantities, with the understanding of emptiness, and then paying homage, mentally paying homage. And that is the third verse, which is paying homage or making prostration with your mind. It is really mentally, paying respect, holding that. Or this is how it is mentioned, but also you can say some of the other Buddhist qualities and hold that and pay mentally, have a deep sense of respect, deep sense of admiration. That is what here it is. Then the verse 4 is paying homage with your speech, And now in Tibetan, Tadangakpa message Jazonam, Yangi Yangla Jazu Tagun, Jawagunji Yunden, Rab Jujin, Dawarshapa, Tamje Dagi. So the saying, saluting them with the endless ocean of praise. So the ngapa in Tibetan, ngapa is praise. You praise, with the genuine, with the sincere, with the understanding of their qualities, not just out of fear, not just in a pretentious, pretending or quite often these days, our making prostrations are becoming just part of culture, and not really sincere that kind of respect, bodily, spiritually, or mentally. It become part of culture. Okay, I'm going to see this great teacher. Okay, when you see that, just boom, 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 3 times, then you make prostrations. Not in that form. Really bring your understanding of and that's what here, in the Lamrim teachings, talking about importance of the recalling, understanding the qualities. Understanding of qualities will bring the respect, and recalling their kindness to bring sense of the devotion. Tabatang tangwa, tabatang tangwa. Tangwa, it has to do here in English, devotion, I don't know what's the main connotation. In Tibetan, the tangwa. Tangwa has the meaning of your mind is really fully inspired, that inspired or aspired with seeing the qualities of that, and that's here when we are making prostrations, we need that. So here, saluting or what's called the praise, that is what verbally saying it, endless ocean of prayers. With the sounds of an ocean of different melodies. And that is really something, melodies, sometimes quite now when you say that, just even if it's one verse, say it nicely, slowly, if you can, with the tune, melodies, which sometimes very nice. When you say it, express the qualities of those great beings, qualities of the Buddhas, qualities of the bodhisattvas, qualities of the mentors, your teachers. When you say it with the nice tune, it will make big difference in our mental state. It will bring this sense of connection, sense of there's something special connection, and to you and those. So this different melodies, yeah. In the one of the Indian masters' commentary, there's it explains melody has many different kinds of melodies. There one is explained 5 qualities, and another one is explained 8 qualities. And this depends on the culture. When I first heard, in the West, when I first heard, those what you call choir, the people who sing in the church, and some have a very deep voice, some have a very high pitch, and they all go together singing. Wow! When I first heard that, I thought, what's going on there? Because in here, in the Eastern culture, that kind of different tones singing together is not there. Either all sing in a deep tone or all sing in a very high pitch, but not in all together. But in the West, there you have that, and I thought, what's going on there? But when you get used to it, then you see the beauty of that. So that is the melody depends on culture, but it is sometimes good to have that. Then here the third line, and that is important one. In the third line, the 4th verse, it says, I sing of the Buddha's noble qualities. That is what here the speech, making prostration with the speech, you express their qualities with your voice, with your voice, either sing or chant, and so forth. That's very useful. Then the last line, Devara Shepa. This here in English is gone to perfect bliss in the last line, and praise all those who gone to perfect bliss. What does that mean? In Sanskrit, sugata. Suk is bliss, gata is gone. Like tayata gate. So one who reached the highest bliss, you can say that. When you say who have gone to the perfect bliss, that's also a nice translation. What does that mean? Those fully awakened beings, because they have purified all the afflictions and their propensities. There's nothing what you call non-virtues left in their body, speech, and mind. And all those wholesome, like love, compassion, altruism, tolerance, all those great mental qualities are completely developed or cultivated. So that state is bliss. So when somebody reach or when somebody experiences that stage, and that is what here the meaning of sugata in Sanskrit, or in English how they translate it, saying who have gone to perfect bliss. Bliss in the sense when we all have the propensity, we all have the seeds to experience that bliss, because we all have the seeds or the potential to purify all our those negativities, unwholesomes, and we all have the potential to ourselves to have a fully awakened mind. When that happens, then we are in the bliss. So that's here gone to bliss. Devara Shepa, which comes across quite often. Sometimes they don't translate in English; they just put it sugata. So that the meaning of sugata is that, and we all, not just the Buddhas and Buddhas that we have visualized in front of us, but we ourselves have the seeds to have that. So that is the prostration. So today we read the four verses which are out of the 7 practices. The first practice, which is offering prostrations, and just to familiarize, imagining the presence of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and this creating this kind of atmosphere. Then the coming practices, such as next practice, making offerings, they all have connection with that. So familiarize that nobody will understand you. We are imagining all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in front of us, because that is mental activities, and if when we have that kind of visualization, when we have a deep sense of joy, we may have a little bit smile, and then people may think, oh, something is going on there. Otherwise, nobody will understand. And these days, because our technology is so powerful, sometimes we may think, oh, that there is a crazy person. Nobody's there, but he or she talking a lot. But they got the air plug and all they talk a lot. So anyway, I'm just taking your time. So now we are going to conclude. We're going to conclude today's our gathering. And part of the our gathering, that is the dedication part. And as we did last Sunday, again we'll do the dedication part with reading the 21 para prayers, and then a few verses as a dedication. And this recitation of 21 para prayers, of course, we can dedicate for many other things, but also think this, this COVID-19, this pandemic be, stopped very quickly, and people who are suffering, and people who, their families, and people who passed away by this disease or any, they have sort of in our prayer. So with that, we will say the 21 para prayers first. Oh, yeah. Om Jetsun Drakpa Shedrup Chanze Droma Nyuma Pamu Chene Geje Lodan Dama Jide Sumgun Chigi Shedi Kesa Jewa Lene Joma Chanze Donge Dawa Gundo Kanwa Jene Zibe Shema Kama Dongda Tsoba Namanji Rabdo Chewe Vera Barama Chande Semu Chune Jeje Peme Chane Nambara Jema Jemba Zundu Gado Shewa Seba Samden Juyu Nyema Changze Teshin Shebe Zodo Taye Nambara Jawa Jema Malu Paru Jimba Tobe Jawe Sege Shindo Dema Changze Doda Rahun Yeke Dudan Chodan Namga Kama Jiden Dombo Shaki Nende Lupa Meba Guba Numa Changze Gajin Mela Tsamba Lola Nazo Wanju Chema Jombo Rona Tisa Namanda Nujin Soye Dune Dema Changze Teje Chadang Peji Paru Chugo Rabdo Joma Yeguma Yunjang Shaki Nende Mebara Chuba Shindo Barama Changze Ture Jiba Chenpo Digi Pao Nambara Joma Chuje Shene Chonye Tenze Dawa Tamje Malu Sema Changze Kunjo Sumzen Chaje Seme Togara Nambara Jema Malu Choje Kolo Jembe Rangi Veji Tsonama Chema Changze Rabdo Gawa Jebe Ujin Veji Chengwa Bema Sheba Rabshi Dudarayi Dudan Jiden Wangdo Zema Changze Sashi Jongwe Tsona Tamje Guba Numa Nyema Chonye Yewa Yige Hongi Pongba Tamje Nambara Droma Changze Dawe Dombo Uji Yenba Tamje Shindo Bama Rebe Chene Weba Mele Dabara Shindo Reba Zema Changze I lost, yeah. Changze Kebe Tama Meta Barwe Tenwe Une Nema Ejang Yungum Gune Korokai Dai Pungne Nambara Joma Changze Sashi Ngola Chagi Teji Nujin Shaki Doma Chonye Jenze Yige Hongi Rimba Dumbo Namne Gema Changze Dema Gema Shema Nyang'en Deshin Ju Nyema Sowa Omda Yangda Denbe Dikpa Chenpo Jomba Nyema Changze Gune Koraba Gabe Daye Lune Nambara Gema Yige Jube Ngane Gobe Dikpa Hongle Joma Nyema Changze Dure Shamne Dabe Honge Nambe Sabun Nyema Rera menda ratang beche, jiten somna yewa nyema, chanze bhayi tsoye nambe, reta tajen chana nama, tara niju pete yeke, duna ma lupa ne sema, chanze bhayi tsonama jebo, hada miyama jitema, Gune Koja Gawa Jiji, Zeda Melwa Ngemba Sema, Chanze Nima Tawa Jebe, Jini Bola Urva Sema, Harani Ju Dudarai, Shindo Tabu Rimne Sema, Chanze Tini Sumnama Gube, Shive Tudayang Da Dema, Duda Rona Nijin Zona, Jomba Dore Rabchon Nyema, Zawe Maki Deba Deta, Chanze Wane Nishu Tsaje. Oh, yeah. Now we will say the dedication verses. Gewa di Jiogun, Sonama Yishe Tsozo Shen, Sonama Yishe Le Chongwe, Tamba Kunyi Tobara Sho. Chanjo Senjo Rembo Che, Maje Panama Jejuro Che. Jeba Nyamba Meba Yang Kong Ne Kong Du Pewa Sho Kari Rave Korwe Shinkama De Pendan Dewa Malu Jungwe Chere Sewa Tenzin Jatsoyi Shabe Side Pado Tenjuro. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. It is very nice. There are so many familiar faces that I can see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you,
Thank you,
Geshe.
Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I will see you next Sunday.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I really enjoy doing this. My other works are not that easy, not that joyful, but this is very joyful that I like to do. And
You like it very much.
people who ask, what is happening in the monastery in terms of the COVID-19. We had a few cases at beginning of October, and now we managed to control. In the last 2 weeks, we don't have a single new case.
Yippee!
We are trying very hard to keep like this, and so of course the young boys maybe they may feel very frustrated, can't go out that much, and they're stuck in their individual houses, but we have no choice. And but fortunately, last 2 weeks, both in Sarache and Sarame, we don't have any case, so which is very good.
Wonderful.
Okay,
Wonderful.
thank you very much.
Yes,
Wonderful. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Geshe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Peter Tree. Bye.
Thank you.
Geshe, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Tree.
Thank you.
Geshe. See everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Goodbye.